All right, everybody, look at all these hearts behind Mrs. Michelle Jackson. Come on, talk to me. This is a beauty that I met 5 years ago at an event in Canada. Michelle's coming to us from just outside of Chicago, and I was totally impacted by her story. I totally could feel her presence and her beingness in this event. She is a very powerful woman, and I wanted her to come on the show today to talk a little bit about what's happening in the world, especially, I suppose, in the United States, but I feel like this is happening globally. We are asking for a complete shift, complete breakdown, complete shift.
Yes.
And we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. All of us are trying to relearn our habits and patterns and conditionings right now. So can you just lead us through sort of where you're seeing these social injustices taking place, and then how you can see us kind of coming out the other side?
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much, Adira. I am so grateful to be here with you on this platform, and I'm grateful to share and speak to and with your audience. For me, surprise, surprise, I'm Black. Ah! But no, I love to open up with that because, you know, there's nothing wrong. There is no thing wrong with me saying I'm Black. There's no thing wrong. And I know I'm saying it in a weird way. Nothing. But there's no thing. You can't find anything wrong with me being Black. You can't find anything wrong with you being white or Caucasian or however you identify, and any other race or ethnicity. God created us all. So he doesn't create garbage. He doesn't make mistakes. We were created in his likeness and in his image. So there's nothing wrong with that. And yet we're in a world that tells us there is something wrong. Yet we're in a world that, from my ancestors, you know, from the origin of my existence, I was brought here through my ancestors to display that there's something wrong, to communicate that we're 3/5 human. And yet 401 years later, we're still trying to fight to prove there's nothing wrong with me, with my existence. Literally 401 years later. And 401 years later, we're here to say, I'm your sister. I don't care if this outer shell is darker or has more pigment or whatever. I'm your sister, and I want the same things out of life that you want. How do we navigate in a world that tells you, well, there's something different about her? Our differences make us beautiful. Our differences make us exciting. I love the fact that you look different than I do, right? I love the fact that you show up in a world and you have your experiences and your lifestyle and your background, and it's different than mine. I would not want to be in a world where everyone sounded like me, everyone looks like me. That would be boring as crap. I'm sorry. Okay. So being able to invite individuals in and seeing how we're more alike than we're more different. One of the things that you said, you know, where we are and what's going on. And of course, we can go into the social injustices. We can talk about police brutality. We can talk about violence in the world. We can talk about racism and all these things. I truly believe that each and every one of us has a bias. I don't care where you're from. I don't care if you're all around all Black people. I have a few biases within myself as it relates to my own Black people. So, you know, you have these concepts of, oh, this person likes this. And, you know, you have these things that are tough conversations, but until we get to the root core of why we feel the way that we do, and do our biases then communicate to an area within us that actually speaks to our insecurities? Because if you're biased, then you have these misconceptions, right? Oh, this person's like that. Does that make you superior? And I mean that within my own race. Like, I have to check my own bias at the door. Oh, if I go into a certain neighborhood, well, these people are going to be like this. No, they're not. And so we have to come to a point where we want to broaden our horizon, broaden our perspectives, and actually mature within our own emotional level of maturity, because you are emotionally mature when you can approach a person without bias, right? And you invite them in, and then you base your assumptions, or you base your information on the information that's been exchanged from that person, not from this stereotype of all people. All people aren't anything. You can't classify one experience with one person and then base that on a whole ethnic group. So it now, I think, is a wonderful opportunity for everyone to learn and to grow. When we talk about bias, bias is those things, all Black people like watermelon. No, they don't. All Black people like chicken. No, they don't. These are the ignorances that we were taught from ancestors, and it's just come down through our ancestry. And so it takes a tremendous amount of courage to show up in the earth without bias. And if you don't, if you never broaden your perspective, or you never broaden your community to have more than just people that look like you will never grow beyond those biases. And unchecked, unchallenged bias becomes racism. I've seen it so much. These aren't just all cops are racist. No, they're not. A police officer saved my life almost 18 years ago. I was suicidal and took 100 sleeping pills and literally wanted to die. They kicked the door open, and I lied, and I'd already taken these pills. I lied and told them I was fine. And I put on the smile, and they had come probably maybe 15 to 20 minutes after I took the pills. So the pills didn't have an effect on me yet. So my pupils weren't dilated. I was still coherent and all these things. And I tried to convince them that I was okay. Well, these two white officers refused to believe me. Now, this was almost 18 years ago. I'm 48 years old. This was when I was 30. They could have looked at me with their bias and said, well, this is just another Black girl. We're going to leave her. She said she's fine. We're going to go. And guess what? You would never have known me. You would never have met me, because I would have died and remained dead. Well, they stayed there with me despite me lying, despite me putting on this facade of being okay, and they refused to see my color. Well, I can't say that. I'm sure they saw my color. And that's what I want to challenge people today to see. See color, see differences. Telling a person that you don't see color tells them you refuse to see their identity. You refuse to see who they are. There is nothing wrong with you seeing this mocha chocolate skin of mine, okay? Nothing wrong with that. I want you to see it. I want you to know that I have a different perspective. I want us all to grow together. And the only way to really grow is to take in and consume all of these variations of experiences with me until I lost consciousness. Now, they could have only seen my color. They saw my color, but guess what? They saw my color, they saw me, they saw a person who was in distress, even though I wasn't visibly in distress. They saw value in me. Because they saw value in me, value that I didn't see. I literally wanted to die. I didn't value myself. My life did not matter to me at that time, but my life mattered to them. That whole Black Lives Matter, this Black woman's life mattered to these two white officers who stayed with me until I lost consciousness and made sure I was put in an ambulance, made sure the EMTs tried to work on me. I still flatlined. I was dead for a few minutes at the hospital, but they brought me back. The doctors were white. They saw value in me. They used a defibrillator and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. They saw value beyond my Black skin. And what I want to challenge the world to see each other as we show up. And then guess what? We can grow together. We can learn together. We can glean from each other. And we can really be the community that we were designed to be. We are not designed to be in our little silos that sometimes are more comfortable.
Right. Yeah.
No, we are designed to be a community for all people, with all backgrounds, right? And I love the fact that now we can have the tough conversations. As white women, as white men, what can you do for the plight and the struggle? You can listen. You can do what Adira's doing here now, opening your platform. You can see our color and see our experiences and hear us. It doesn't mean that you did something wrong. It doesn't mean that I'm accusing you and your ancestors because I'm just all-knowing. No, it merely means that this is my experience. I have been a victim of racism. several times. My 27-year-old daughter has been a victim of racism. I raised her in a predominantly white neighborhood. You know, she was taunted in some ways, you know, by little children who were 6 and 7 years old. Why is your hair nappy? What's wrong with your hair? Called her the N-word. I've been called the N-word several times. I have not gotten jobs because on the telephone, you generally couldn't tell my ethnicity. But then I'd show up for the interview and oh, the total the tune changed. And so, oh, you love me on the phone and you can't wait to get me in, and then you get me in and you ask me several times, wait, you're Michelle? You're Michelle? And you see the total utter shock on the person's face. It's like, it's disheartening. But where we are today, there's this illumination now where you can't deny what has been our experience since we've been here. Like literally, this is our experience daily. And we have to conform we have been in positions where we've had to conform to make white people comfortable. And living that dual reality every day, you know, you have to put on the face and the smile, and, you know, you pretend and you act and then as a Black woman, the stereotypes, you know, if I stand my ground and say, no, you know, I don't appreciate this, or, you know, I really think this should be done. Wait, you're so angry. The stereotype of the angry Black woman, the stereotype of, I've literally been told, oh my gosh, Michelle, you're so different. What are we comparing me to? Different than what, right? Or you're so articulate. I've never heard a white person tell another white person that they're articulate. So right now, this is an opportunity, right? Have you, Adira? Have you ever just been chatting it up with one of your white comrades and you said, oh my gosh, you're so articulate? I'm sure you haven't, right? So it's one of those things where this is a time to put away the microaggressions, to put away the bias, and to really, really listen to each other. And honestly, it's more of a time for white people to be allies, to be advocates, and really just listen. And then guess what? My Black experience as a Black woman, I'm 48 years old. It still might be different than another Black woman's, right? So what does that mean? It's been a really tricky situation because we're in this world that defines beauty as something other than me, right? So showing up as a little Black girl or a Black guy or a Black boy, showing up with the world telling you there's something wrong with you. You need to change who you are to assimilate. You need to change how you speak, how you walk, what you like, to make everyone else feel comfortable. Well, then what ends up happening is you lose a sense of who you are. So at 40, you might just be coming into the conclusion of, wait, I don't even like this. I've been doing this for 40 years, but I don't like it. Or I don't like this group, or I don't like this, or I don't like how this group makes me feel. And I don't mean a group of people in terms of an ethnicity, but I mean, you know, you've been going and patronizing this business because that was the way to be successful. And you realize, I really don't like it. But this is what the world has told me that will accept me. This is how you succeed. No. So now we're in a place, I think it's a level playing field where everyone can see. I haven't been pulling a Black card. This stuff is really happening. Oh my gosh, this is awful. So we have the white allies coming like, I can't believe this has been happening. I can't believe you've been showing up every day like this. And the blinders are coming off. So now we need forgiveness. Now we need more love. Now we need to embrace. We need to understand that every person has a purpose. We need to transform our thoughts around how we've been led and guided by our biases. Now we have to really get flipped. And I don't want this to be this moment where I'm just pushing a book, but that was the process that I used to overcome the severe clinical chronic depression that I was so traumatized by from the time that I was 12 until 30. That was the process. Those were the tools that I used to actually get Michelle back. because I was suicidal from 12 years old. I attempted suicide 3 times, and on the 4th time at 30, my first time I was 12, second time I was 16, third time I was 17, fourth and final time I was 30 years old, that I shared with you guys just a minute ago. And it took me to actually learn to forgive and learn to love and receive love, the thing that I wanted so desperately. Every person on this earth wants acceptance. And in that acceptance, it includes, of course, love, right? And in that love, when you really learn to love and you really learn to love others and receive love and become love for others, you recognize your purpose. But you can't do any of that until you transform your thoughts about the trauma that you've experienced. And for many Black people, it's that generational trauma, the generational trauma of racism and all the effects of racism. So now just imagine being a Black woman and having the generational trauma of racism, and then include my own personal story of being a victim of molestation, sexual assault, incest, and rape. I was molested by my uncle. I was brutally raped by my father. He put a gun to my head, one bullet in the chamber, spun it around, played Russian roulette on me, would choke me until. So now add all of those traumas up. And then I'm showing up in a world where I have to wear a mask because the world said, you're not acceptable. Who you are is not acceptable. So the only way to overcome all of that, it will never be because someone accepted you or someone said you're good enough. Removing all of that trauma has to come in getting flipped, which is my book, When She Flipped, When She Forgave, Forgiveness, Love, Purpose, and Thoughts. It's an acronym. So where are we going? I hope I answered the question. How can we get there? It's only going to come through forgiveness, love, purpose, and transforming our thoughts. Transforming our thoughts about how we're showing up in the world and how we're viewing the world that we're showing up in. How are we treating our neighbor? Are we a community of people, or are we flying in these silos and only with people who make us comfortable? The greatest growth you will ever receive is going to be the growth that has been initiated by discomfort, right? In your most uncomfortable moments, that's when you've grown the most. And I truly believe, according to John Maxwell's book, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. There are no losses. You will never lose. I don't care the most horrific experience. I was literally raped by my biological father. That is probably the most horrific that you can get, right? However, through that experience, through that trauma, through that growth process, it has opened me up to be a more empathetic person. I have a platform that I help other women and some men to overcome. And it's this thing that's given me almost a superpower, because in it, I learned to forgive the most heinous of crimes, right? In it, I learned to really, through that forgiveness, it navigated me to a place of love. When I could receive love from God and from myself and from others, then I could actually love people the way that they really want to be loved. And the greatest way to love a person is through acceptance, not trying to change them, not trying to fix them, not telling them they have some deficit or deformity, but really accepting who they are. Of course, through that acceptance, if you hang around them long enough, your good habits will rub off on them, right? And they will grow. But accepting people for who they are and where they are. And that is socially, that is within your family, that's within your relationships, it's universal. If you just accept people as they are and actually show up and listen to them. So we can do the work, but we're going to have to transform our thoughts around how we've been showing up and navigating through this world, period. Did that answer you? That was a very long-winded answer.
I mean, can you not see how powerful this chick is? I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Okay. You've answered everything. I feel like people need to reach out and get the book. Is the book available? Can you get it online?
The book is available everywhere books are sold, and on Amazon, When She Flipped, FLPT, and it's called Overcoming Suicide Through Transformed Thoughts. So the book can be found everywhere books are sold. You can find me on Facebook and all social media platforms, generally by Coach Michelle Jackson. Yes.
You did it. You shared. I accept you 110%. I mean, honestly, I don't know how many percentages I could have. It's unbelievable. You're just such a beauty and such a gift to this world, Michelle. And I'm just so honored to just be somebody that and I can support you. I'm excited actually to get that book. I know a few people that could possibly, I mean, right now especially, people need some tools. And if
Yes.
they felt like, if you've resonated with Michelle, if there's something here for you, I will send the links and put the stuff below our interview here so you can reach out to her. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adira. I appreciate you. And I thank you for the work you're doing, because this is how we're actually going to overcome this season that we're in. This is how. So you're doing the work. I see you. I acknowledge you. I accept you. And I thank you.
Thank you. You as well. All the same back at you, girlfriend.